exercise, you will need waxing instruments, morphology reference such as models, baby powder or aluminum oxide, your articulator and models, articulating paper, sticky wax, blue sculpting wax, and your Bunsen burner. First, we will start with tooth number 3. In this photo, the tips of the buccal cusps on tooth number 3 land near the buccal developmental grooves of the mandibular first molar. The buccal developmental grooves on the mandibular first molar should be marked for reference. First step would be to apply a separator to the opposing surfaces. Next, add a thin layer of sticky wax to the platform of tooth number 3. Next, mark the receiving areas on the mandibular molar for the supporting cusps, also known as the stamp cusps. Shown, the red markers represent the receiving areas, and the blue markers represent the supporting cusps or stamp cusps of the mandibular molar. We will be building up tooth number 3 using the wax drop technique. This means that the wax will be built up to occlusion with minimal carving. First, we create cones. We will begin with the mesiolingual cusp of tooth number 3. It is important to check that the cones are meeting in the proper receiving area of the mandibular opposing molar. Pictured here is a maxillary first molar. The blue represents the receiving areas, and the red represents the stamp cusps. This will serve as a reference when waxing the first molar. Once the first cone is done, the second cone, which represents the distal lingual cusp of tooth number 3, will be made. Remember to frequently check that the cone is meeting in the proper receiving area. This photo shows how cusps are related to their receiving areas. Once the supporting cusps or stamp cusps are finished, we can now move on to the non-supporting cusps. We will begin with the mesiobuccal cusp of tooth number 3. The markings made previously will help you align the tips of the buccal cusps where they should be. Next, we will move on to the distal buccal cusp of tooth number 3. The same markings will be used as reference again. Next, we will create a fish mouth around the peripheral border of tooth number 3. Once the fish mouth is complete, you should be able to see the beginnings of the rhomboidal shape of tooth number 3. Now or later, you could use a Murphy knife to remove the excess from the border. Now it is time to fill the fish mouth with wax. You could do this by pooling it in the center, or slowly creating each triangular ridge. Once the fish mouth has been filled, the basic structure of the molar should be seen. Once the fish mouth is full, contacts must be checked. This is done by sprinkling baby powder or aluminum oxide on top of the wax. Next, check the bite with articulating paper. The contact point should be as shown. The central fossa of tooth number 3